What did Jesus Christ actually eat every single day? Not on special occasions, not during miracles, but in the quiet, ordinary rhythm of daily life. Because when you strip away the traditions, the paintings, and the assumptions, you're left with something surprisingly simple. Foods from the Lord. Foods that were grown, gathered, baked, pressed, and shared. Foods that didn't come from factories, but from the design of creation itself. Bread that was broken by hand. Fish pulled fresh from the water. Olives crushed into oil. Figs, dates, lentils. Meals that nourished the body without complication, yet carried everything it needed. And here's what makes it powerful. These weren't just ancient foods. They were everyday foods. The kind of meals people relied on constantly. The same kinds of foods that sustained Jesus Christ throughout his life. So what exactly were those foods? And how can you actually prepare them today, in a simple, real way? In this video, we're revealing 10 foods Jesus likely ate every day, along with full, practical recipes you can try yourself. If you're drawn to biblical living natural foods and rediscovering the kind of meals that nourished people for generations, make sure to subscribe to Biblical Roots, turn on the notification bell, and join us as we bring these ancient foods back to life. Let's go back to the table. 1. Bread, the daily staple that sustained life. Bread wasn't just food in the time of Jesus Christ. It was life. It was the foundation of nearly every meal. Simple, filling, made from what the land provided. Flour, water, sometimes a little salt, mixed by hand, kneaded with effort, and baked over stone or fire until it became something that could be broken and shared. This wasn't the soft, processed bread people know today. It was dense, rustic, nourishing, often made from barley or wheat grains that grew naturally in the region. And there's something powerful in that simplicity. Because bread didn't just fill the stomach, it sustained the body in a steady, reliable way, providing energy, strength, endurance for long days. Simple biblical-style flatbread recipe. Start with 2 cups of whole wheat or barley flour. Add a pinch of salt. Slowly mix in about 3/4 cup of water until it forms a soft dough. Knead it for 5–10 minutes until smooth. Let it rest briefly, then divide into small portions. Flatten each piece into thin rounds. Cook on a hot pan or stone for a few minutes on each side until lightly browned. That's it. No additives, no preservatives. Just simple ingredients transformed into something sustaining. And maybe that's the reminder in all of this. Sometimes, the most powerful foods are the ones that were never meant to be complicated. 2. Fish, the simple protein from the water. For Jesus Christ and the people around him, fish wasn't occasional. It was constant, especially around the Sea of Galilee, where fishing wasn't just a trade, it was a way of life. Fresh fish, caught daily, cooked simply, no heavy sauces, no complex preparation, just fire, salt, and the natural flavor of the fish itself. It provided something essential: protein, strength, sustenance that supported the body in a deeper way. And because it was often eaten fresh, it carried a kind of purity that's easy to overlook today. Simple grilled fish recipe, biblical style. Take a whole fish or fillets, like tilapia or sardines. Clean and pat dry. Rub lightly with olive oil. Sprinkle with salt and, if available, crushed herbs like coriander or dill. Place over an open flame or a hot pan. Cook for about 5–7 minutes per side, depending on thickness, until the flesh is tender and flakes easily. Serve immediately. No overthinking, no overcomplicating, just nourishment, as it was meant to be. And maybe that's the lesson here. Food doesn't need to be complex to be powerful. Sometimes, the simplest preparation is exactly what the body needs. 3. Olives, the small fruit packed with strength. Olives were everywhere in the time of Jesus Christ. Grown on trees that could live for generations, harvested season after season, they were one of the most reliable foods people had. But olives weren't just eaten fresh. They were cured, preserved, allowed to develop flavor over time, because straight from the tree, olives are bitter, almost inedible. But through a simple process, soaking, salting, waiting, they became something completely different. Rich, savory, satisfying. Simple cured olives method. Start with fresh olives, if available. Crack them slightly to allow the bitterness to release. Soak them in water, changing the water daily for about 7–10 days. Then transfer to a brine made of water and salt. Let them sit for another 1–2 weeks. Optional. Add herbs like thyme, garlic, or coriander for flavor. Over time, they transform. And that transformation is part of the beauty. Because olives provided more than just calories, they offered healthy fats, long-lasting energy, and a sense of fullness that sustained people throughout the day. Small fruit, big impact. A reminder that sometimes what looks simple on the surface is carrying more than you realize. 4. Olive oil, the essential oil of daily life. If there was one ingredient that touched almost every part of life in the time of Jesus Christ, it was olive oil. Not just for food, but for cooking, healing, lighting lamps, even anointing. It was pressed from olives through effort and patience. Crushed, ground, extracted slowly, and what came out was something incredibly valuable. Golden, smooth, rich in nourishment, used to dip bread, to cook fish, to bring flavor and depth to otherwise simple meals. Simple olive oil dip, biblical style. Pour a small amount of extra virgin olive oil into a bowl. Add a pinch of salt. Optional. Crushed herbs like hyssop, thyme, or coriander. That's it. Dip fresh bread into it, and you have a meal that's been eaten for thousands of years. But olive oil wasn't just about taste. It provided essential fats the body needed, supported energy, helped the body absorb nutrients from other foods. And maybe that's why it shows up again and again. Because it wasn't optional, it was essential. A quiet but powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest additions are what make everything else work together. 5. Figs, the sweet fruit that nourished and restored. Figs were one of the most common and valued fruits in the time of Jesus Christ. Soft, sweet, growing abundantly on trees that required little care. They became a reliable source of nourishment for everyday life. They could be eaten fresh right off the tree, or dried and stored, making them last far beyond the harvest season. And that mattered. Because in a world without refrigeration, foods that could be preserved naturally were essential. Figs provided quick energy, natural sugars, fiber, minerals, something that could sustain the body during long days, especially when meals were simple. Simple dried fig preparation. Take fresh figs and wash them gently. Lay them out under the sun on a clean surface or rack. Allow them to dry slowly over several days, turning occasionally. As the moisture leaves, the sweetness concentrates. What you're left with is something dense, rich, and long-lasting. No additives, no processing, just fruit. Preserved the way it was always meant to be. And maybe that's the beauty of figs. They didn't need to be transformed into something else. They already carried what the body needed. Sometimes, the most complete foods come exactly as they are. 6. Dates. The natural sweetness that sustained the journey. In the regions surrounding the Hayat of Jesus Christ, dates were more than just a treat. They were survival food. Small, dense, packed with natural sugars and nutrients. They provided quick energy in a way few other foods could. Travelers carried them. Families stored them. They were eaten daily, sometimes as part of meals, sometimes on their own. Because they worked. They satisfied hunger quickly, gave strength when the body needed it most. Simple date paste recipe. Take a handful of dried dates. Remove the pits. Soak them in warm water for about 10–15 minutes to soften. Mash them into a thick paste. That's it. This paste could be eaten on its own, spread onto bread, or combined with nuts for something more filling. And even though it's simple, it's powerful. Because dates remind us of something important. Not all sweetness is harmful. Not all energy comes from processed sources. Sometimes, the body recognizes what's natural and uses it exactly as it should. 7. Lentils, the humble food that strengthened generations. Lentils may not seem impressive at first. They're small, plain, easy to overlook. But in the time of Jesus Christ, they were one of the most important foods people had. Because lentils were reliable, they grew well, stored easily, and when cooked, they became something deeply nourishing. Rich in plant-based protein, fiber, and minerals, they helped sustain the body in a steady, lasting way. Not a quick burst of energy, but something that carried people through the day. Simple lentil stew, biblical style. Rinse 1 cup of lentils. Place them in a pot with 3 cups of water. Add chopped onions and garlic if available. Drizzle in a bit of olive oil. Season with salt and simple herbs like cumin or coriander. Let it simmer slowly for 30-40 minutes until the lentils are soft and the broth thickens. What you get is something warm, filling, deeply satisfying. And maybe that's why lentils mattered so much. They didn't just feed people, they sustained them. A quiet reminder that the foods that look the simplest are often the ones that carry the most strength. 8. Barley, the ancient grain that fed the poor and the many. Barley was one of the oldest grains in the world, and one of the most accessible during the time of Jesus Christ. It wasn't considered luxury. It was everyday food, especially for the poor. But that didn't make it weak. Barley was hardy, able to grow in difficult conditions, producing grain that could be turned into bread, porridge, or simple meals. And because it was so available, it became a staple. Simple barley porridge recipe. Take 1 cup of barley, rinse thoroughly, add to a pot with 3 cups of water, bring to a boil. Then reduce heat and let it simmer slowly for about 30-45 minutes until soft. Add a pinch of salt. Optional, a drizzle of honey or a few crushed dates for sweetness. The result? Something warm, gentle on the body, sustaining. Barley didn't try to be impressive. It didn't need to be, because it provided exactly what people needed. Nutrition, stability, and consistency. And sometimes, that's more valuable than anything else. 9. Grapes, the fruit of abundance and daily provision. Grapes were a familiar sight in the lands where Jesus Christ lived, growing on vines, ripening under the sun. They were a symbol of provision, but also a very real everyday food. They could be eaten fresh or dried into raisins for longer storage. Either way, they provided something important: hydration, natural sugars, a refreshing source of energy. Simple raisin preparation. Take fresh grapes. Wash and remove from stems. Lay them out in the sun on a clean surface. Over several days, they slowly dry out, shrinking, darkening, becoming raisins. What's left is something small, but concentrated, sweet, portable, long-lasting, perfect for daily use. And maybe that's the quiet lesson grapes carry. Provision doesn't always come in complex forms. Sometimes it grows on a vine, waiting to be received. Simple, abundant, enough. 10. Honey, the natural sweetness that healed and nourished. Honey was more than just something sweet in the time of Jesus Christ. It was valued, respected, even described as something flowing from a land of abundance. Because honey wasn't just about taste, it carried real substance, collected carefully from hives. It was one of the few naturally sweet foods available. And unlike modern sweeteners, this wasn't empty. It brought energy, support, even healing properties that people relied on. Used in small amounts, it could transform simple meals into something satisfying. Simple honey mixture, biblical style. Take a spoonful of raw honey, mix it with a little warm water, or drizzle it directly over bread. Optional. Combine with crushed nuts or a bit of olive oil for added richness. That's it. No processing, no refining, just something taken directly from creation, used as it was given. And maybe that's why honey stood out, because it reminded people that sweetness didn't need to be manufactured. Sometimes it was already there. And when you step back and look at all of this, one truth becomes clear. These weren't rare meals. They weren't complicated recipes. They weren't designed in kitchens or perfected over time. They were simple foods: bread, fish, olives, fruits, grains, and honey. The kind of meals that sustained Jesus Christ every single day. Food that came from the Lord. Food that nourished the body the way it was created to. And maybe that's the reminder in all of this, that what we truly need, was never meant to be complicated. If you're drawn to biblical living, simple meals, and rediscovering the foods that nourished people for generations, make sure to subscribe to Biblical Roots, turn on the notification bell, and join us for more content like this. And before you go, let me know in the comments, which of these foods would you actually try first? Until next time, stay rooted, stay nourished, and stay blessed.